Hey, good morning. I just wanted to do a follow-up piece on the last video. We had a dressage show on the weekend, and in between warming up clients, we had some time to do some observation training. I thought it would be really interesting to take the view from the dressage test out into the warm-up. So we could move away from the idea of what was the finished movement and more into what ingredients do we need to make that finished movement possible. Because I really think there's a bit of a gap in the education when it comes to the way of going of training our horses. So we're given the finish line, and by doing a test, by paying your money and entering the show, you're given the missing pieces, but not necessarily how to put them all together. There is a certain responsibility for each rider to find a lot of that for themselves, but we really, I think, have to make sure that as a community, as an industry, that we're giving riders, trainers, whoever it happens to be, the training tools to be able to analyze correctly what's needed for a horse. So taking that idea and watching the horses warm up was really, really interesting. So we sat for most of the day, huge entries for first big show back, and looked at each horse in its way of going, whether it was established, whether it was developing, whether it had issues, whether the issues were getting in the way of the development, or whether they were running alongside the development. So it was about seeing, in that moment, was a horse made better or worse by riding the movement? So it gives us, I think, a clearer indication of what a horse needs, what kind of a solution it has to have to help it continue to help challenge it, and to help challenge it to support it, so that the level of competition, the level of riding, the level of test is not just a test. It's not a way to break the horse apart. So I think when we can start to think about it like that, it creates a different type of perspective. It creates a perspective of training where we can start really analysing down to the simplest detail. So not the most comprehensive picture, which is then really hard to keep track of, but the simplest picture. So we can be always with our horses, always that in that most supportive moment, instead of in the vaguest, most overall helpful moment. So you start riding not a pattern or a movement, but you start riding a way of going, a way of riding that helps your horse fulfill the criteria of that movement. And it was really interesting looking at different breed types, different sizes of horses, different levels and ages, and not allowing. So when we sat watching, I was asking people, tell me about this horse, and not allowing anybody to delve into the story of he is this age, this level, this type, and just speak about his way of going. So quite a few of the horses had development problems. I mean, that's just the nature of horses. It's a physical creature. But we were able to then dissect and see when a movement really helped a horse and when a movement was going against a horse. So it's tempting in competition mode to pin things down to make them consistent and steady and to fit the picture. And often when we do that, if we're not doing it in a fully aware manner, what we're actually doing is we're diluting the quality of the way of going in order to make it look steady to fit the picture. So it's I think it's an interesting time for us, because competitions are coming back, to look at the riding, look at what you're trying to make happen in a competition, what movements, what levels, but to look at the underneath, so to look at the way of going underpinning the level and the test you're at.